Hello, I'm Zeke, and welcome to the Zekely Podcast. Let's talk Pennsylvania. The guest I have today is an assistant professor in the Department of Emergency Medicine at Drexel University College. He served in the Navy, he's really into ultrasound, and he's running to be a DELCO Council member. Max Cooper, welcome to the show.
I'm Zeke, a doctor, a Pennsylvanian, and an unapologetic supporter of democratic values. You might have seen me on social media working my ass off for Democrats and meeting some pretty amazing people along the way, like President Barack Obama and Governor Josh Shapiro. For years, I've knocked thousands of doors all over Pennsylvania and poured my heart and soul into supporting candidates and causes that make a difference, from local school board races to national elections. The personal is political, and I take every election in Pennsylvania personally. Where the mainstream media has failed you, I will give you truth and independence. You'll hear from Democratic leaders, candidates, and change makers who are working to improve the health of the Commonwealth, and it won't be boring as hell. No matter where you are, I'll meet you with hope and a plan to make your community better one day at a time. Welcome to the Zekely Podcast. Let's talk Pennsylvania.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. It's so good to see you. I mean, you're my people. We're both doctors. So we're both into politics.
We both have great glasses. What can I say?
I know. We got the glasses and everything. Well, I have a lot of things to talk about with you, a lot of games to play. So, as doctors, we always have tons of stories to talk about, right? Do you have any notable medical or residency school training stories?
Well, I definitely do. I feel like this is potentially a dangerous question. I feel like you ask 9 out of 10 ER doctors, they're going to say, you put what where? As the most noticeable story.
Yeah.
But I definitely have a funny story that involves me, actually. So pretty early on, this is a story that all my residents know. I tell them about this day one of their residency training. So pretty early on in my internship, I was trying to prove to one of my senior residents that I really enjoyed working with. Max is cool. Max knows how to put in, tough ID. Mm-hmm. So I was also, trying to show my medical student, what's going on. There was this patient with really tough stick, and he happened to be in the tiniest, most cramped room, in the emergency department. So patient's in there, I'm in there, the ultrasound's in there. Favorite thing.
Yeah.
Senior's in there, my medical student's in there. It's like 2 hours after the end of my shift. I haven't eaten because I'm like, I'm hustling around the department. Finished putting the IV in, started to get a little lightheaded and sweaty. Yeah. And I pass out and collapse right on the patient.
On the patient?
I pass out right on the patient. Patient screamed. I fall on the floor. They wake me up. Here's the kicker. Here's the best part of the story. So I'm drenched in sweat, right? Because I passed. My blood sugar probably dropped. I haven't eaten anything in like the entire day. And so the nurses are like, "Coops down. You got to get an EKG. He's sweaty. Who knows?
No.
He's having a heart attack." You can't quite tell, but I got a bit of fur on my chest. So they had to shave the leads into my chest. And for those of you that know how to set up a 12 lead, the smiley face situation that develops. The best part of the story is this was a week before I got married.
No.
Honeymoon, I had a smiley face shaved in my chest.
You had like a 40-year-old virgin waxing going on your chest when you got married.
That's the situation. Moral of the story, what I tell all of my residents, make sure you take a break and eat some food during your shift, or you can end up on your honeymoon with a smiley face shaved in your chest.
That's awesome. That's a great story. Little small business spotlight, living in Delco. Is there a small business you frequented in your district that you think deserves some more attention that you really like going to?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the ERs that I'm most frequently working at are Crozier Chester Medical Center and Taylor Hospital. And, they're kind of connected by, Chester Turnpike. And kind of right in between is this 24/7 kind of greasy spoon diner called Stargate Diner. It's in Ridley Park, I believe. And that is absolutely my go-to place after, like a 12-hour night shift, bleary-eyed, and I need to get me some fried eggs, or some scrapple or some, cheeseburger at like 2 a.m. or whatever it is whenever I get off shift. That's 100% always where I go. Super friendly folks. Shout out to, all the awesome wait staff there who have gotten me a cheeseburger at 2 or 3 a.m. while I review residency applications after my
that's fuel. That's mind fuel there.
Absolutely.
Check it out sometime when I'm in your area of the woods. All right, let's do phrase out like the pronunciation, I should say. I think I was exposed to this in medicine actually. when people used to
the
say,
same one, because I was just thinking the same.
yeah, it's probably, is it sonometer? It's sonometer, right?
Exactly what I was thinking.
It's like my
Like, what?
entire life. It's like it's centimeter.
Right.
And, you know,
Centimeter,
it's
exactly.
not even like an American, even like across the pond, they don't say sonometer, I don't think. It's centimeter. But like
It's
all
like-
of a sudden, all these surgeons are like measuring wounds in sonometer. I'm like, what are they talking about?
I remember in my anatomy class, my professor was like, yes, and he had a very Italian accent. Like, yes, this many centimeters. I sound like, I don't know, Transylvanian vampire there because I can't do it. But, he's talking about centimeters, and I hear him, I'm like, have I been pronouncing this wrong? My entire life? What's going on here? No,
That's awesome.
it's centimeters for sure.
Yeah,
sure.
it's
There's
centimeter.
there's this weird thing in medicine where we need
I
to
know.
make things sound different. I guess.
I know. And they're,
Right.
and when you're in training, like it's always the attendings who are saying it. So you can't correct them. You can't look like you look at each other and then you're all like shaking your head like, yeah, he just, or she just said that.
Yeah.
But then you just move on. And then sometimes like those people absorb that saying and you're like, oh, well, I don't know why you did that. Yeah.
Yep.
So
You
you're
got the one
running.
who's drinking the Kool-Aid by the,
I
by the
know.
fourth year rotation. If they're saying centimeters,
I know.
you're like, it's like, yeah, it's
No.
still centimeters. Like,
It's still centimeter. It will always be centimeter and we'll never forgive you.
No.
So you're running for DELCO Council, City Council. So what made you decide to run for City Council in DELCO?
Yeah, so I'm running for Delaware County Council, DELCO. As we call it here. You're up in Montco, I think, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Do you guys call it Montco or do you call it Montgomery County?
Either Montco or Montgomery County. I feel like, you're the DELCO, we're the Montco,
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I've never heard it called like Berksco or Yorkco.
You're right. We're just
But
special. It just
DELCO,
flows. It flows.
Has a certain je ne sais quoi. I don't know
Exactly.
that anyone's said that.
Exactly.
So I'm running for DELCO County Council. So for those who have been paying attention, or probably even if you haven't been paying attention, you've probably heard through the grapevine that the hospital that I work for, I think probably one of the most critical hospitals in the area, Crozier Chester Medical Center, it's in pretty dire financial distress, right? So we're the only trauma center in a county of 500,000 people. We have one of the best and only burn units in the entire region. We have the most comprehensive cardiac, center for heart attacks. We have, one of the most comprehensive stroke centers, only L&D unit really in the area. And so we're a truly indispensable medical center. I really think the next, members of Delaware County Council are going to be able to kind of, steer the kind of ship and have, an outsized influence in what healthcare looks like in our, not just for the foreseeable future, but I think really to, set a long-term vision. I think there's a lot of things that county council can do that will bring stability and kind of, move towards stability financially. So I'm really trying to, enact kind of, positive change for what I think is, the most critical health resource in our county.
So you would bring a lot to the table as a physician, knowing what your county needs, essentially. And how high the stakes are, what you're doing on a local level will be extremely impactful to your community.
Absolutely. I mean, just the very last week worth of overnight set I was on, we had a young man who is unfortunately injured in a gunfire incident in the Riverside. And I think to myself, like, what would happen if there wasn't an ambulance to go pick this kid up? What would happen if there wasn't a trauma center in county to care for this kid? God forbid he had to travel up to Penn Presby in West Philly or Christiana down in Delaware, the next closest trauma centers. These are moments where seconds matter for people's lives and for outcomes, and so I don't feel like any of the other people that I speak to in the kind of municipal government world have an understanding of this. I mean, I do in a sense that but it's ink on a page. When I think of these things, it's the person I saw last night on my shift. I think it makes it more real, makes the challenge more palpable. I'm really running to try to fix the system, preserve the system for the people that I think are, most sorely in need of these, kind of safety net.
When you help the most vulnerable amongst us, you help everyone. So that totally makes sense. I guess, talking about the loss that we have to deal with sometimes at work and then get right back to work afterwards, basically moving on to the next thing. I think it's important to acknowledge sometimes that we, even as physicians, need people to talk to. I have a therapist that I talk to Do you talk to a therapist at all, to keep your mental health where it needs to be to do the job that you need to do and everything else in your life?
Yeah, I was thinking of mentioning this, and I'm really glad you did. I think, one of the hardest things to do is to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
I do have someone that I talk to, and I do think that's important because I think, I don't know, maybe some people call it machismo, some people call it like hard-headedness, whatever you call it. I think there's this idea of like, I'm just going to buckle down. I don't need to ask for help. I'm tougher than this. I mean, working in a trauma center, you just see awful things. Sometimes I close my eyes and I think about the 18-month-old who drowned in shallow water that I took care of just a couple months after I graduated.
It's heartbreaking.
Or I think of the newborn that was, co-sleeping with their parents, and, one of the parents accidentally rolled over onto them, and we were, trying to resuscitate essentially a newborn that was suffocated. I think of, some of the teenagers I've seen that have been the unfortunate incidents of, gunfire. And, you can close your eyes at the end of your shift, get ready for sleep, and you're right there. And sometimes that lasts for a really, really long time. And sometimes it never goes away. And, I was in the Navy, I deployed to Afghanistan. I was in a combat hospital. The kind of things that I see at Crozier, the kind of things that I saw when the convoy got blown up and they brought there, there needs to be a release. And I think it's really hard to ask for help. It's really hard to,
you have to be tough. You have to be tough mentally to ask for help. You have to know it, because that's being vulnerable, right? You have to admit, I need help. And again, we live in a culture where men aren't supposed to ask for help. We're supposed to just chug along and not feel feelings. And we need help. Our spouses can't do the things that a therapist can do, I guess, unless your spouse is a therapist, but that would be like a conflict of interest probably. And you probably shouldn't see your spouse for your therapy, but certainly we as physicians see some of the most terrible things in the world and have to move on to the next and next and next. And so I'm glad that you also talk to someone about that and whatever else is going on in your life. Everyone is struggling with something we don't know about. What's an unpopular opinion or take that you have? You don't follow the pack in a certain way?
Wait, let me think about this. Unpopular opinion.
I do not like coffee. I don't know how.
That is an unpopular opinion, especially.
I know. I don't know how I survived life. I think I just have really high cortisol levels. Like I think my body is just surging with cortisol all the time because I just wake up and I go. I love the smell of coffee. I mean, I smell coffee. It's a delightful smell. But I just taste it and it tastes like a lie. I'm just like, God, this is just disgusting. And then by the time I'm done with coffee, it's just like sugar and cream. And even then I don't even like ice. I don't like coffee flavored ice cream. It's just not my thing.
Well, I'm the exact opposite. I love coffee. As you could imagine from an ER doctor, I have like 5 cups of coffee in me on any given day. You got to like wake up, go to sleep, take melatonin, weighted blanket, coffee. It's like you got to have some system to kind of regulate the up or down. So I guess in this vein, I will come out with my unpopular opinion. Maybe this is the kind of, New Englander in me. I grew up in like a small town, Western New England. I cannot stand Starbucks coffee.
Okay. So you're a Dunkin'? Are you a Dunkin'? Are you a Dunkin' person?
Give me whatever is like local. Everyone that I know is like obsessed with Starbucks. It's like Dunkin' or Wawa for me is totally fine.
Okay, it's respectable.
Starbucks is, nothing about it is fine. I'll drink it if it's what I need to get to the shift, but it's not my go-to. And I feel like a lot of people like sugar in their coffee. I'm just a little bit of cream or black is fine.
Yeah, so I know. So like when I would make coffee runs for people, I would have to ask very detailed instructions because I literally never got coffee. And I had to memorize Jess's coffee when I went to Starbucks for her. It's a decaf iced caramel macchiato with skim milk. And it took me a long time to remember that. I had to like text myself a lot of times to get it. That's how much I just don't touch the stuff. I know.
Is Jess your wife?
Yes.
Yeah. So my wife, Nicole, does not like coffee. So she's, I guess she's in the Zeke boat.
Yep.
She's a tea drinker.
I like tea.
And my wife does like Starbucks. So she's a big fan of a drink. I guess it's called like the London Fog. I think it's like
Earl Grey. I got it. We got to hang out more often.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
And my wife can have the coffee and I'll have tea with your wife. I love a good London Fog.
Yep. So
the vibes are vibing.
That's your go-to drink.
That's awesome. For people who have been hurt by doctors or healthcare professionals and who might feel hurt or lost, have trouble trusting the system, I think it's important as doctors that we try to, bring them back into the fold, because when you push people away from the healthcare system, it drags other people with them. It can hurt other people in the family. And, when bigger catastrophes happen, like a pandemic, for example, that's where the misinformation can swirl around. So if anyone's listening or watching, what would you say to them to kind of try and bring them back? Because we do have to acknowledge that not all doctors are the same, that not all healthcare providers are the same, that everyone is as altruistic as we would like them to be.
I think first, it's super important to acknowledge that you're 100% right. Some of the greatest atrocities in humankind have been committed by the medical establishment. We have such a great power imbalance because the human body is so complicated, right? I mean, who would you trust more than your doctor, the person who you're supposed to trust? It's a position of great power. Iron Man's my favorite kind of Marvel hero, I guess. So
there you go.
Great power comes great responsibility.
It's very true.
And so thinking back to awful things like Tuskegee and syphilis experiments, and really understandable mistrust in kind of the medical establishment. And it's frustrating because I know every day I show up to work and I'm trying to get the best outcome and kind of help people, and imagine you're focused on the same kind of thing, and there's kind of sometimes generations of historical mistrust built up and kind of simmering beneath the surface. And so how do I combat that? I try to sit down and make eye contact and give people the most focused 5 minutes of my time that I possibly can to hear their story and examine them and come up with a plan and kind of come to some sort of therapeutic develop some sort of therapeutic relationship with them. That's all you can do. You just have to listen to them and try to meet them where they're at and help them navigate their way towards better outcome.
Lead by example, essentially. Show them that not everyone is like maybe someone who didn't treat them as nicely as they should have. All right, so you were in the Navy, correct? So I create a little game to see how good your lingo is in the Navy. All right, so I don't know if they use these same types of things today. They may be like way outdated, and it's like we don't even talk that way anymore. But we're gonna play a little game, and I'm gonna see.
You're really putting me in the spot. The Navy is like all these sorts of great little communities. There's like medical Navy where I was. There's like aviator Navy. There's like surface warfare. There's underwater.
So here we go. All right. So what is a rubber sock or a rubber boot?
I have no idea.
We're off to a great start, man.
We're off to a great start. I swear I wasn't in the Army, guys.
All right. So evidently a rubber sock or rubber boot is a new recruit. So at what point in time you were a rubber sock? There you go. What about to caulk off?
I mean, I kind of have a vague sense. It's like...
It's spelled C-A-U-L-K, to caulk off.
I mean, the way you said it, I thought it would have been like mouth off or something. But
it's like, it's time to caulk off, boys.
I don't know. I haven't heard that in any of the hospitals.
It's to go to sleep, evidently. To caulk off is to go to sleep.
I've definitely not.
You're going to get at least one of these. I can feel it. All right. All right. This one is Bucket of Blood Racetrack. Let's all head down to the Bucket of Blood Racetrack, Max. No, it's a low-class dance hall.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they said in the Navy. I don't know if this is a verifiable website I got these from, but I'd like to believe there were like 100 terms. So we should get one.
I mean, you got some colorful ones for sure.
I know. All right. What about a sugar report?
I haven't heard that one either.
The sugar report, a letter from your girlfriend or significant other. That's your sugar report. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
All right. What about a Goonie?
I mean, when I think of Goonie, I think of the classic 80s movies.
It's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah. I mean, I actually had the movie poster up in my office in the hospital. Like, that's what we kind of call ourselves.
Yeah.
Our division, the ER docs. We're the Goonies, right?
You're the Goonies.
The bad news bears. We got nothing. We're doing everything with nothing.
The best.
Yeah.
Well, it's evidently a married man. If you're a Goonie, you're a married man in the Navy.
I'm a Goonie, I guess.
You're a Goonie. All right. Well, that was all of them. So let me give you something you actually can answer. What was your favorite part of being in the Navy?
Gosh. I think my favorite part of being in the Navy is very similar to my favorite part of being an ER doctor. It's just you meet so many interesting people, right? You meet like the good old boy from like Alabama that you're serving with.
Yeah.
You meet like, the city slicker from like New York or Chicago. You meet, the kind of California surfer dude or dudette. There's so many different interesting people, and I think they're all drawn to, the combination of like service to something bigger than yourself.
If you get elected to the DELCO Council, I wish I could vote for you, by the way. Unfortunately, I can't because I'm in Montco. How will that affect your job as a doctor?
Yeah, it's a good question. Because the position of DELCO County Councilor is part-time. Pays about $50,000 a year. And so I've had a lot of conversations with, the chair of my department, with my wife. I would kind of take a significant drop in hours at the hospital, but not give up the job. I love being an ER doc. I've been for the last, year plus working at like 1.3 times my contract. And I would plan on dropping down to like 0.8 my contract. And that would, between that and giving up the township position and some other kind of work on boards that I do, would dedicate about 80 hours a month to kind of county council. I would continue seeing patients at Crozier.
I like that you're getting involved in it's local politics, which a lot of times are the most important types of politics to get involved in. But I think that there's a narrative sometimes, not a loud one, but certainly one that, doctors should stay out of politics, that we should stay in our lane. We took an oath to do no harm. And that oath doesn't start and stop when we enter and leave the hospital. It is our job to protect our patients from nefarious diseases, nefarious laws, and nefarious lawmakers. And so I think it's important that we are in that space. So I'm grateful that you are getting involved at the local level. I think it's very important you bring something to the table and you understand that, there are a lot of things you can pay for, but health is wealth. And I think it's important that we protect that. We're going to play another game. It's called You Can Counsel on It. And you tell me whether or not the DELCO Council is responsible for something, okay? Which probably, I'm sure you know most of these. So setting real estate taxes.
Oh, yeah. Property taxes are one of the largest sources of revenue in county.
You got it. Forgiving student loans.
I've never heard of county council discussing such a thing. No,
that is correct. They are not responsible. That is correct.
That'd be great if they could.
That would be cool if they could, but they are not responsible for that. Protecting your green spaces, build and renovating public parks and recreation areas.
Yeah, for sure. County, municipal, state, there's a lot of different kind of players involved in, various kind of parks and kind of, motorways and, pedestrian, thoroughfares and whatnot. So it's for sure. And I would say some private enterprise too. There's definitely some...
Determining the public school curriculum.
That would be school.
That is correct. Create a healthcare department that expands access to vaccines and healthcare to veterans.
It's absolutely county or city, depending on kind of where you live. Every county seems to have its own kind of, charter that defines what it can do, but absolutely.
Deprivatize prisons.
Well, that's something that county council has done. Really, really happy with that kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the last 4 years.
What about approved funding for the Ukrainian war efforts?
I haven't heard of any missiles.
You're not involved with that?
So, no, I'm going to say that's probably federal level. Maybe
I think
Army and the Navy are involved.
I think you're probably right. These are some softball pitches for here.
Yeah,
what about commuting a prison sentence? Can you do that on council?
No. I mean,
can't do that
would be governor, or if it's a state crime, or
Governor Shapiro,
federal crime.
You got it.
I suppose the AG, or not the AG, the district attorney probably has some leeway in how they charge crimes.
Yep. And one more, open a food bank and expand treatment for those suffering from drug addiction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they can do that too. So you're going to do a lot of stuff. That's just great. What gives you hope?
There's a lot of things that give me hope. I think back to some of the experiences I had in the Navy, the melting pot, people come from so many different perspectives related to work together, kind of unified mission. A lot of those experiences I draw on, relationships I still draw on. I still talk with a lot of folks I served in. My 1-year-old, my 5-year-old, seeing how they kind of experience the world and build friends and dig in the dirt and play with the neighborhood dog. That gives me hope. As much as I think you and me and many of your listeners are probably frustrated at the outcome of Senate races and congressional races and certainly the presidential race.
Yeah, what do you plan to do to get yourself through these next few years? I know obviously one of them is running for DELCO Council. Yeah. Is there anything else you're doing to kind of get yourself through?
Well, if you look at some of the ballot measures, a lot of the ideas that we fight for, the ideas that we advocate, the ideas that we care about, around reproductive freedom, reproductive autonomy, sorts of things, they did well in places that you wouldn't think they did. The state of Florida, for example, it didn't pass. They have rules around it needing to make a 60% threshold for the kind of ballot measure to pass. But you know what? It did over 55%. So a lot of the things that we care about and we message about and we try to build kind of momentum and organizational capacity around, these are popular ideas. And I don't want people to kind of give up hope. I don't want people to, abandon organizing and think, there's nothing that they can do. We're kind of right at the edge of, the pivot point. I think if we just, work together and kind of like push it over the corner, we're going to, have a lot of momentum over the next few years. I think our ideas are more popular than people are saying right now. We're going to get reorganized as we did after 2016. We're already seeing, as I'm going around the county and talking to so many different committees about what I hope to do at county council, seeing tons of new faces, tons of new people signing up to join committees, tons of new people signing up to knock doors, to phone bank, to postcard, to vote. And
the buck stops with the voter.
It's gonna swing back. We just need to put in the time, put in the energy. So, what am I doing? Yes, I'm running for county council. Certainly, that's a lot of my focus right now. I'm also continuing to work with an organization, Committee to Protect Healthcare, that's involved at the federal level, many state legislatures around the country, doing work to kind of lobby for, communicate around protecting reproductive freedom, as we talked about, but also to improve the cost of prescription drugs, to expand access to health insurance products, to improve kind of, maternity, paternity leave, medical leave.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Max Cooper, who is running for DELCO Council. I can't vote for him. I wish I could. But if you live in DELCO, please look him up. Max, do you have a website people can go to and check you out?
So my campaign website, you can read a little bit more about me, volunteer for my campaign, friendsofmaxcooper.com. I can send you a link. You can post it with this.
I certainly will.
I'm also on Twitter and Blue Sky and Instagram, although not nearly as prolific as Zeke. You have the bug. I don't know.
I'm trying, man. One day at a time. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for joining me here on the Zekely Podcast. Stay hopeful and get involved. And until next time, let's keep building a stronger Pennsylvania together.